Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. Finally coming at you with Spright post-banless build. Took me a while, longer than I meant to get to this, but how exactly was Spright affected by the latest banless? Well, Cash Tira Fenrir went to 3, which actually does help Spright quite a bit. This first game is going to be up against Kewl, and we are going first. No Fenrir in this hand, but we'll see the card in action later on. So here we're going to begin with Fiendsmith Engraver. This is going to be a Fiendsmith Spright variant. That gets hit with the Ash Blossom, but we get to normal summon the Carrot, Special Jet, and go for our full Spright combo anyway. Starter's going to pull the blue out of the deck, and now blue gets to activate, adding the Spright red, which will then special summon, and now we are pretty much fully insulated against any other hand traps. One thing I've always loved about Spright, it's got so many ways to set up stops for your opponent's hand traps mid-combo. It's great, I love it. Alright, Sprint dumping Angler, Angler for Beavers. Now Beaver plus Sprint are going to make the Gigantic. And then Gigantic gets to activate to summon out the Swap Frog from deck. Very standard Spright combo line here. If you are not familiar with Spright, by the way, I have a very extensive combo guide which will be linked down below. One thing I think I could have tried to do here before the Gigantic is potentially tried to work in the Fiendsmith line, because we are, of course, playing Moon of the Closed Heaven. Just because Engraver got negated doesn't mean we're cut off from Fiendsmith. But in this scenario, giving up on my, or rather going into my Fiendsmith line would have meant giving up on red plus Carrot. And as good as Fiendsmith is, I mean, having a monster and a spell trap negate, I don't think I need to tell you, is very, very powerful as well. So we're just going to make a pretty standard Spright board here going into our opponent's Kewl combo. Got the Imperm to back it up as well. Now here they're going to begin with the Kewl Reco, and I'm going to activate Spright Red, and you'll notice that I tributed the IP Masquerena. This is so that I can both negate and destroy the Kewl Reco. The thing about Kewl monsters is if they're negated, like even if I had used Imperm, which negates the card for the whole turn, like even if I had done that, they could still use a tuner monster in their hand to be able to make plays. So I don't just need to negate Reco, I need to negate it and get it off the field. So the red negate plus destroy by sending the IP here is a very effective way of doing that. Now you might be saying, but Lex, now you can't use IP to go into SP Little Knight. Isn't that a huge misplay? Well, no, because here my opponent's going to chain Kewl Synchro. We're going to use Carrot Send Away the Ronin to negate that real quick. With Kewl Synchro, because it's a quick play spell, I don't need to negate and destroy it. Obviously, it'll just go to the graveyard at the end of the chain link anyway, so we can just sacrifice the Ronin here. But now, as chain link 5, I'm going to use Elf to revive IP, because Elf can revive a link or rank 2 monster if my opponent controls a monster. And Reco is still considered on my opponent's field because the chain link hasn't resolved yet, so it hasn't been negated and destroyed. Alright, here's Elf bringing back the IP. Now we can pivot into SP again. Carrot negates Kewl Synchro. And then Red negates and destroys Reco. And then, as you can see, my opponent's just going to concede right away. Obviously, very glad to have played as much with Kewl as I did to know really the ins and outs of the weaknesses of the deck, right? It's really easy. I just think back to what had, like, when I got screwed over and lost, why did it happen? Usually because my opponent destroyed my monster so I couldn't synchro with something in the hand. But even if my opponent did have follow-up plays, like if they went Rotary to normal summon something else, we do still have Imperm plus IP. So if they would have went like Rotary, reveal Q, normal summon Q, we can still Imperm the Q, and then because our toggle is set to on, in the next open game state, we can go IP plus Carrot or Red into SP Little Knight, and then banish the Q. Then my opponent would have had Rotary plus one more card left in hand. And that's in like the best case scenario for them, right? So obviously, our end board is very, very nicely set up to deal with anything the meta decks can throw at us. But let's see some more gameplay here against high-level meta decks, like Canine Vanquish Soul, for example, and this time we're going to be going second here. So, obviously going to be relying a little bit more on the hand traps that we open to hopefully carry us through our opponent's turn. Now, we do have the Fuelos and the Imperm. I feel pretty good whenever I open 2 hand traps going second. I usually feel reasonably confident that I can play through whatever they've got. So here we're going to Imperm the Raisin, so that way they can't add Holly Sue. And then in the next opportunity, we're going to Fuelos as well. So now if they try to go into the Brock, then we can get a draw off that. So here they had the Stake Your Soul, but all they had to reveal for it was the Xiaolong, meaning they can only get another Raisin. Of course, Raisin is only once per turn, so they can't get another search out of it. Yeah, it's really too bad for our opponent that they didn't have another, like, attribute of Vanquish Soul Monster. If they had Dark, they could have summoned Borger / Madlev, and then at the very least, Borger could have drawn a card. And if they had Earth, obviously, then they could have gone into Holly Sue. But if all they have access to is Fire, and especially if it's just Xiaolong, then yeah, literally the only thing they can get is Raisin. Alright, so yeah, they're going to link into the Rock, giving us another draw. We're finding Droll and Swat Frog off of our 2 draws here. They're going to add back their other Raisin. So I am kind of... It's weird, right? Because on one hand, it's worth assuming they have a Dark Monster just to play around the Raisin a little bit, although I am still going to misplay into it here in a second. But even then, I think it's actually not correct to assume they have a Dark Monster, because again, if they had literally any Dark Monster, they could have gone for either Madlev or at the very least Borger off of Stake Your Soul, and I think they definitely would have done that. So anyway, second Jet, not a great draw, but I'm going to normal summon the Nimble Beaver here. They're going to Chain Max C. Now thankfully we have the Droll and Lockbird, and for those who are unaware, Spright can actually full combo right on through Droll and Lockbird. It literally doesn't matter at all. The only searches the deck has are Blue and Jet. Blue pretty much always gets Jet anyway, and Jet getting starter obviously is usually pretty important, but not vital by any means. And the nice thing about our build in particular, as you can see, is that we are on Fiendsmith. So as soon as I get the Jet and Carrot online to stop any potential spell or trap cards, although they can't exactly imperm here, never hurts to be too careful. But yeah, no, we get to just turn our Beaver plus Angler into the Moon of the Closed Heaven. Another really nice thing about Fiendsmith is that, like the rest of the Spright engine, it plays right on through Droll and Lockbird. So yeah, despite the fact that we drolled ourselves on our turn to stop our opponent's Maxi, we are literally just going to go full combo here. So here's Lacrima and Engraver. Engraver F is going to send the Raisin here. Now, they do still have the Rock effect, so I'm being mindful of that. And again, even though, based on how my opponents played, there's pretty much zero chance they actually have a Dark Monster in hand, I'm still going to kind of just play assuming that they do, and be a little bit careful. Although the misplay that I forgot to point out was that I actually accidentally put the Angler across from the Raisin, totally not even thinking about what I was just talking about, assuming they have a Dark Monster. Wasn't even me not being worried about it, it was just me totally forgetting about Raisin. A little bit of a misplay there, but didn't really end up mattering. Even if they had activated Raisin to pop Angler, that would have been fine because we had so many extenders in hand. So, this is kind of interesting, right? I could have kept Fiendsmith, Lacrima plus Engraver as separate bodies on the board, which would have made it easier to OTK, but I decided to overlay them into Caesar instead, just because I know a lot of Canine Vanquish Soul's disruption is special summon effects, so I just wanted to be careful here. But now we can go Sprint, Dump Angler, go for the Beavers, and then we're going to summon out the Gigantic Spright. Now, I have a couple of options of what to summon off of Gigantic, or I would accept my opponent's going to concede here. But I think this was actually a pretty interesting decision point, because if I wanted to OTK, probably would have gone for Swap Frog to get more bodies, but would that have been enough? Because they had the 2100 defense Xiaolong, which I think Caesar would have had to have taken out, so that would have been Gigantic at 32 plus Elf at 14, that's 46, plus Carrot is what, 1,000, so that's 56. We can definitely get another Swat Frog on board, so that's 6,600. So I just need to be able to make a Rank or a Link to another one that has 1,400 attack. I think Swat Frog would have given me enough bodies to do that. So I think Gigantic for a swap probably would have been right there. The other option was to summon out Gigantic, or not, Spright Red. Yes, Red. I got Red and Carrot mixed up for a second. Yeah, we would want to summon out Spright Red as the other option to stop a monster effect on the opponent's next turn, but I would only do that if I couldn't OTK. And again, if I pulled out Swap Frog, I would have had an OTK there. But either way, that's going to be a dub for us. I have one more replay to show you, and then we're going to take a look at the deck list at the end of the video. And this final game is going to be up against Blue Eyes. And don't worry, we do get to see Kashtira Fenrir in action in this deck, as we are going to open it right now. Okay, so this hand is fantastic going first. Could not ask for a better going first hand, even with the Ronin. So we're going to special summon Fenrir, and I will say this actually right up top. Fenrir to add Fenrir right away was a huge misplay for me. I know I just said Droll doesn't really matter that much, but in this hand where I have Tracked and Blue, I would actually really not like to have my opponent drop a Droll. So that was a misplay. I could have Fenrir'd for Fenrir later in the turn. It's not like I need the copy in hand. But even if I had only opened Fenrir, Ronin, and then just like a bunch of hand traps or spell and trap cards, this would still be full Fiendsmith and Spright combo. Because of course I can just normal summon Ronin, link into Moon, Moon into the Fiendsmith line, and then you can use the sequence at the end of the Fiendsmith line to go into Sprint and do full Spright combo. But here, we already have the Tracked, so Fenrir is just going to end up hanging out on our board and serving as an end board piece. Of course, whenever my opponent activates a monster effect or Fenrir declares an attack, I get to banish a face-up card the opponent controls face down. So, very powerful end board piece, and here we're going to get met with the first hand trap. Our opponent's going to have a couple. It's going to be the Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. We're going to call by here. I think if my opponent had Maxi or Fua or Perulia, they would have fired it off by now. So, to be fair though, they could have been saving Fualos and then chained it after their Ash Blossom in case it got negated. That would have been a really big brain play. And I've had scenarios where I've done that before, but it's not the most common play. Okay, here's the next hand trap from our opponent. It's going to be Bestial Magnum Hut on the Engraver as it's trying to revive. So, unfortunately, we can't really get access to Caesar during our turn, because even if we were to go sequence with Lacrima plus Fenrir, we still don't have the Engraver to revive. However, we do get to use Fenrir there to banish their Magnum Hut, so they'll get the search during the end phase, but at least we don't have to worry about the body. At this point, I'm just going to go normal summon Ronin, blue for Jet, Jet for starter, and then we're going to use blue plus Jet in order to make the number 65 Djinn Buster. This is part of, too, what I was talking about earlier in the video when I said that Spright is really good at making mid-combo hand trap negates. So my opponent's already used a couple, but now even if they have another monster-based hand trap lined up for me, we can just use the Djinn Buster to negate that. Or if they don't, that's fine. Djinn Buster is still a monster negate on their turn. Alright, now we're going to use Ronin plus Lacrima in order to make Spright Sprend. Sprend will dump the Angler. We'll get the 2 Nimble Beavers. Sprend plus Beaver in order to make the Gigantic. Remember that if you summon Sprend on turn 1, you should be using it to overlay into Gigantic to get it out of the extra monster zone. Because like Elf, it cannot be used as Link material during the same turn that it's summoned. But it can be used as Xyz material for Gigantic. Speaking of Elf, here is Elf, and then we're going to activate in order to revive Swap Frog. Swap Frog will dump another swap, and then we're going to revive the Ronin. And I'm actually going to use Swap plus Ronin to make IP and leave my big 3200 Gigantic Spright on the field. And then, of course, we'll end it off with Starter for Carrot. Since I already have Djinn Buster, I like having a monster and a spell trap negate. And it looks like they're going to add Ether Barrel off Magnum Hut during the end phase. Okay, so going into my opponent's turn, we've got a Banish, 2 Negates, and then IP into SP. Definitely not bad. They're going to go Primite Roar for the Blue Eyes. I'll let that resolve. That's fine. Normal summon Ether Barrel to set the Lordly Load. Now, after that resolves, I'm going to use Fenrir to banish their Blue Eyes. Then I'll use IP to link away with the Fenrir, since it's already used its effect. And now we can make the SP Little Knight. Little Knight is then going to banish the face down Lordly Load. I could have also used Gigantic instead of Fenrir in order to make the SP, but Gigantic has more attack and also has more value if it sticks around during the next turn to use its effect again. So they're going to follow up with the Triple Tactics Thrust. I said that's fine. I'll just use Carrot to negate whatever you search. Elf is going to revive the IP, and then our opponent's just going to concede. Elf reviving IP doesn't even, like, matter there, by the way. It's not like I can use IP Masquerade's effect. But if they were to then go for Wishes, then I could just use Carrot to send away the IP, and I could keep my Elf, my Gigantic, and all my other stuff just on the board. Because, obviously, that would be better. It would be better to give up the IP Masquerade, right? And on top of that, you know, it's good to get the IP revive with the Elf now, because even if they were to chain like Call By or Ghost Spell, that'd be completely fine. I would let it resolve, and then whenever they go to use Wishes, then I could use Carrot to send Elf away. Yeah, I think a lot of people would have used Carrot to negate the thrust there, but letting them, seeing what they added there, I think is super valuable for the information. Also, like, sure, they might add like triple tactics talent, but not only can I negate that anyway, but if they thrust, I negate it, and they have a triple tack in hand already, they can just use that. So I think waiting to see what they add was always correct there. And Wishes was so good for me, because then if they go to activate it and discard a card, then they'll only have one card left after I negate with Carrot. So we had that duel on lockdown in like 8 different ways. It's so good. All right, let's check out the deck list, and then we will finish off. All right, here is my build for Fiendsmith Spright, and of course, as you can see here, we are rocking a full playset of Kashtira Fenrir, which I do think is really, really good in this build. Oh, I had the capital I there. Didn't even realize till just now. But yeah, no, so Fenrir, I think you should consider 3 copies for just about any deck that has Fiendsmith, because of course Fenrir plus any monster that's an effect monster can make Moon of the Closed Heaven. Obviously, Fenrir is a great end board piece, as we demonstrated in that last replay, and it's really strong going second, playing into an opponent's board as well. It's so nice to be able to just drop Fenrir, and then your opponent's immediately kind of like, oh shit, you know, if I use one of my end board pieces to negate, they can use Fenrir to banish the other one, and maybe even full combo after that. So I really, really am liking having 3 of this in Spright. It might not seem like the most obvious interaction, but I think it's really good. I think even if you're not playing Fiendsmith with your Spright, the 3 Fenrir is still really good, because Fenrir plus literally any level 2 monster can make like the Sprend or the Elf. So obviously, a lot that this card can do just by being a body on your board. But again, pairing it with Fiendsmith in particular, I have been having a lot of success and fun with this build on Ranked Ladder. Yeah, I think that the only thing I would change about this build is maybe trying to add a couple more hand traps. We're on 12, which is fine, but if you don't open Fenrir, sometimes going second with this deck is a little bit of a struggle. You've got the Shadow Mosquito OTK line, but it's more just like trying to play through all of their disruption can be a little bit rough. But that same token, Forbidden Droplet, or another board breaker card, you could also consider that to help you go second. But again, I really like having the Fenrirs for helping go second as well. It's a very, very nice tool to have for many different scenarios, and I think it's not the most obvious, I guess, a little mini engine in the world, but this card at 3 is just insanely good in Spright. Pretty much no matter which variant you're running, I think you could consider the Fenrirs if you've got room in the main deck. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I have to say about this build. Like I said, I have a guide linked down below where I talk at length over 2 hours about Spright and break it all down. So if you're interested, feel free to check that out. As always, want to thank you so very much for watching. Super appreciate your support. Let's go ahead and move now to our outro, where we can thank our YouTube members and Patreon subscribers. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.